If you were born between 1965 and 1972, you belong to a demographic that makes up roughly 20. Divorce rates peaked precisely when you were young enough to feel the impact, and dual-income households became the norm, leaving millions of homes empty by mid-afternoon. The systems required to catch the gap between the school bell ringing and parents clocking out did not exist. Adults called this lack of supervision freedom. In reality, 9-year-olds were coming home to make their own meals, realizing that panic doesn't relight a pilot stove or stop a fight between siblings. Your developing brain learned a permanent lesson. True safety requires extreme self-reliance. Help was not coming, so you had to become competent enough to handle the crisis yourself. Running underneath your youth was the background hum of the Cold War. You participated in drills where you hid under wooden desks to prepare for a nuclear attack, internalizing early that adults couldn't guarantee your safety. Then in 1986, you watched the Challenger explode live on television. Highly visible cultural traumas reinforced the understanding that tomorrow was never promised. 3 years later, the Berlin Wall came down, the geopolitical dread vanished overnight, and society moved on without offering any psychological debriefing for the kids who grew up bracing for the end of the world. Older generations watched you shrug off these massive shifts and labeled you apathetic slackers. You weren't checked out. If everything could end on a random Tuesday, panic was useless. Your brain pivoted to ruthless pragmatism, focusing strictly on immediate, actionable steps. Without adult oversight dictating your tastes, you built your own tribal culture. You were the first to experience music as a visual medium through MTV. You actively rejected polished pop. The sounds that defined you came out of garages and basements, raw, unvarnished grunge and alternative rock. In a vacuum of adult guidance, these artists acted as reliable truth-tellers, speaking directly to the reality of your experience. Music wasn't background noise. The golden age of hip-hop and the rise of alternative genres offered an intense individual identity and a sense of belonging. By your mid-20s, you entered an analog workforce. Over the next 3 decades, every tool you used was digitized and replaced, often multiple times, and you adapted without formal mentorship. This technological fluency mirrors your cultural innovations. Both stem from the exact same childhood reflex, figuring out how to build and operate in an environment where nobody left you an instruction manual. Now, in your 50s, the bill for outworking and burying those early realities is coming due. This graph illustrates the hidden toll on your demographic. According to a 2023 study, 62% of Gen Xers experienced significant childhood adversity. But isolating the data further, we see a drastic drop-off. Only 11% ever addressed that adversity in therapy. For most of your life, you masked this through sheer competence. Today, it shows up as an isolated weariness, a tiredness that sleep doesn't fix, carried by people who are needed by everyone but cannot speak the language of asking for help. Yet when you raised your own children, you made a deliberate choice. You asked them how they felt and provided the emotional language that was entirely absent from your own youth. Subsequent generations receive the credit for normalizing emotional awareness, but they navigate an emotional landscape built brick by older Gen X, a demographic that forged itself out of absence and quietly holds up the world without requiring any applause.